Still in Ecuador, the country is experiencing an intense and conflictive political situation after the president announced that he has signed the death cross decree dissolving Congress in the midst of an impeachment trial. We have more details.
In an official statement, President Guillermo Lasso announced he had signed Article 148 of the Constitution to dissolve Parliament, alleging political crisis and commotion in the country as the main reasons behind that decision.
In order to give Ecuador a constitutional solution, I have decided to apply Article 148 of the Constitution of the Republic, which grants me the power to dissolve the National Assembly due to a serious political crisis and internal commotion, for which I have signed Executive Decree number 741. In addition, I have requested the National Electoral Council to immediately call for legislative and presidential elections for the rest of the respective terms.
As a fundamental and constitutional act in itself, Article 148, the so-called death cross, gives power to the president to dissolve Parliament, to govern for up to 6 months under the control of the Constitutional Court, and to call for presidential and legislative elections. After the announcement was made, the military forces and national police pledged their support to President Lasso's decision, asking Ecuadorians to respect it, as it was, they said, subjected to a constitutional norm.
The armed forces and the national police maintain and will maintain a firm position of absolute respect for the Constitution and their decision to protect the rights, liberties, and guarantees of the citizens within the framework of the rule of law. The position of the National Assembly to politically prosecute the president is based on a provision of the Fundamental Charter. Likewise, the decision of the constitutional president of the Republic to dissolve the National Assembly is based on Article 148 of the Constitution of the Republic. Therefore, it is subject to a constitutional norm and must be fully and completely respected by all citizens.
The National Assembly was militarized and several legislators and workers stayed outside the Legislative Palace while members of the armed forces and the National Police prevented their entrance. The deployment came facing possible protest as there was a clear popular discontent with the decision that impeded the impeachment trial over corruption charges against the head of state.
What Lasso did this morning is only one thing: to prevent the vote on the impeachment trial, which was in the end the trial of history. It was a last-minute strategy of a despised president who once again clings to power instead of resigning, going home and allowing Ecuador to rise again. But evidently, we could not be sure of that from a despised president, and a president who cares least about the people but only about his vanity, whims, and ambitions.
During an interview to Russian television, former Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa said that the President Guillermo Lasso's decision to dissolve the National Assembly and call for new elections was not constitutional, but said that in the end it was the best solution since it allowed the elections of new government that could respond much better to the needs of the Ecuadorian people.
Yesterday, he went to defend himself before the assembly, saying that the situation in the country was marvelous and stable, and today he declares death cross. That means anticipating elections. He dissolved the assembly, but there are also presidential elections, a parliamentary provision that is in the Constitution of 2008, precisely to overcome political crisis. I think that in the end, and in reality, it is the best solution that a new government is elected, because if Lasso goes out of office due to a political trial, he is replaced by his vice president, which is the same thing. However, we need proceeded to say that it is not constitutional because the grounds, at least the ground he's invoking because the others are not valid, to anticipate elections due to a series of social commotion. That social commotion does not exist. What does exist is a political trial in full compliance with the Constitution.
Since April, President Lasso had been facing alleged then confirmed corruption charges. The Congress only needed 92 votes out of 137 to dismiss the current head of state, whose last resource to keep Congress from going ahead with the impeachment trial was signing Article 148 of the Constitution, the so-called death cross.